Good morning, everyone. Mr. Bencharsky back here. We're going to be just doing our very final review for area of a trapezoid. Now, we have one final worksheet, and then hopefully next Monday we're back, and we can kind of review some of the stuff together. But again, I wanted to make sure that everyone was on the ball here. I did upload a video previous to this called Area of a Trapezoid Part 1. If you haven't watched that, please do so before you watch this. This video will specifically help you with the Area of a Trapezoid worksheet, the final one. In fact, if you stick with this video, I'm actually going to do the first 3 questions together. So you can easily get the first 3 answers just by watching this video. This example that's on the board right now is actually number 1 on your worksheet. So we're going to follow along. Now, I want to make something very clear. I did put this in the instructions, but I want to make this as clear as mud. I want you to round these answers to the nearest whole number, these measurements, because otherwise you're going to be multiplying and dividing decimals, which is, I know, tricky for some people. So we're going to round these to more easier numbers to work with to make sure this goes well. So let's take a look at some of these numbers. Now, let's start with base 1. Now, base 1 is 1.5. Now, if I want to round this to the nearest whole number, the 5 would round this up to a 2. So this would actually be 2 inches. So make sure you round. Base 2 is 3.3. The 3 is not enough to round that, so we're just going to drop it. It's just going to be 3 inches. And the height, 2.9, the 9 will round this up to a 3, and I can just drop the rest. So make sure before you get started, round those numbers so they're easier numbers to work with. Now, you might notice right away that this trapezoid looks a bit different. Well, the side lengths don't actually need to be the same because they don't matter. What matters here is the height, and the height doesn't change if you change the side length. So the side length doesn't matter what they are because the height's going to be 3. So let's use our formula, which is the formula we use whenever we're trying to find area of a trapezoid, and that is area equals base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. Remember, because the bases are different heights, we can't just do base times height. We need to average the bases out by adding them together, multiplying the height, and then dividing by 2. So it doesn't matter which one you choose as base 1 and 2 because you can add them in any order you want. Let's say base 1 is 2, base 2 is 3, the height is 3, and we divide by 2. Now we have some really easy numbers to work with here. 2 plus 3 is 5. I'm just going to fill in the rest. 5 times 3 is 15. And 15 cut in half is 7.5 inches squared. All right, so once we have some easier numbers to work with here, instead of 1.5, 2.9, and 3.3, I simply have 3, 2, and 3, which makes it a lot easier to work with. That being said, let's go on and do number 2 together. Hopefully you're following along. All right, guys, we're on number 2 now, so hopefully you're following along and you're going to get the first 3 answers together. Here's another trapezoid. Again, the side lengths are different lengths, but they're irrelevant. We just need the height. Before we get started, let's round. Only one of these numbers needs to be rounded. 0.6, the 6 is great enough to round this up to a 1, so this actually just becomes 1 inch. Really easy here. Now let's use our formula. Area equals base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2, okay? Base 1, we'll say is 1. Base 2 is 2. The height is 2, and we'll divide by 2. A lot of 2's in this number. Now, 1 plus 2 is just 3, and I'm just going to fill in the rest. 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 divided by 2 is 3 inches squared. So the answer to this area of a trapezoid is 3 inches squared. Remember, I rounded my 0.6 or 6/10. I rounded that to 1 inch. We then added together base 1 and base 2. So 2 plus 1 is 3. We multiplied the height, which is 2, and then we divided by 2 to average it out. So otherwise, that's number 2, guys. We're going to do one last one together. So follow along here for, you know what? I'm going to do another one. I'm going to do number 5. So follow along here in number 5. Just watch here. I'll have it up. All right, guys, here's our last trapezoid. Sorry, it's a little small. Hopefully you can read that. This one has some measurements here. We have 2.9 for base 1, 1.3 for base 2, and 0.9 for the height. This is a upside down trapezoid, but that is irrelevant when we work on finding the area. First thing we should do is round these. So let's start with 2.9. The 9 rounds up to 2 to make it 3 centimeters. The 3 does not round up to 1, so this would stay at 1 centimeter. And the 9 will round up the 0 to 1, so the height becomes 1 centimeter. A lot easier when you're working with numbers like this. So let's use our formula. Area equals base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2. Base 1 is 3, base 2 is 1, height is 1, divide by 2. 3 plus 1 is 4, times 1 divided by 2. 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 cut in half is 2 centimeters squared. So once you get these numbers rounded, they're really easy to work with. Now, I just want you to make sure, because on the second half of the page, you're going to see some of these trapezoids that have side length measurements. So it might say, for example, 1.6 here. The side length is irrelevant. We don't need it to find the area. You would need it to find perimeter, but for area, it's irrelevant. Just ignore the side lengths and you will be perfectly fine. Just find base 1, base 2, and your height. Otherwise, guys, if you have questions, please let me know throughout the day. And hopefully on Monday, we are back together and doing some review on this together. Have an awesome day, guys. Bye now.